Hi, Sibs. I want to tell you about this really incredible book that I just read called Mindset, New Psychology of Success. This book is by Carol S. Dweck, who is a professor at, where is she professor at? It doesn't matter. The point is, she's done a lot of studies over the years of how our beliefs affect the way we act. And in particular, how our beliefs about our abilities, whether our abilities are something that's fixed and set when we are born, or whether they are something that we can develop over time. Now, at first blush, you might think, well, of course you can develop, anything can develop, right? Doesn't everyone believe that? Not necessarily. If you think about it, haven't you ever said something like, oh, I'm no good at drawing, I can't draw, or I can't play music at all, I like listening to it, but I sure can't sing. When you say things like that, think about this for a second. Have you ever really tried? Because there's a very good chance I would think that you haven't, because you decided at some point that this was just not something you could do. I want to show you something that speaks directly to that. In her book, she has this before and after drawings. These are drawings that people did before, it's a self-portrait, before and after taking a course in drawing. Look at the difference. I mean, that's an incredible difference. Clearly, before the class, they could draw, but afterwards, they could really draw something that looks like a person. Now, how long was this class? What do you think? 6 months? A year? No. 5 days. 5. That's it. So if you really apply effort, you can improve even in areas where you maybe showed no ability before. The problem is that we tend to think if it's not, well, I say we, people with a fixed mindset, I should say, tend to think that if they are not good at something right away, then, oh, they're just not good at that. It's unfortunately something that we often instill in our children unintentionally. Our children do something that impresses us, and we say, wow, that's great, you're really smart, or you're really strong, or something like that. And they feel the praise, and they feel good about that. But then they didn't really have to work for that. And so if you actually try and get them to do something that requires work, then they think, oh, well, I'm not good at that, and then it's a threat. She did a lot of studies with children where, for example, she would take a group of children and she would give them some puzzles and say, here, try these puzzles. And the kids would solve the puzzles. And then they would, with one group of children, they would say, oh, wow, you're so smart that you figured that out and did it so fast. Would you like to try these harder puzzles? And with the other group, she would say, wow, you really worked hard at that. Or she might even say something more like, well, that was way too easy for you. We need to give you something harder to work on. The ones that she praised for their success and for how smart they were, most of the time did not want to do any more puzzles because it was obviously a test. It was a test to see if they were smart enough or good enough. If they take a harder test, they might fail that one, and then that would mean they were a failure. I know this sounds a little overblown, but go with me here. Whereas the ones that she praised for the effort they put in, well, you can always put in more effort, and if you get praised for just putting in effort, then that's great. You know you can do that, right? So this affects everything that you do in life. It really does. She has lots of examples of famous people who had either a very fixed or very growth mindset. That's what she calls the other side. If you believe that you can always improve and change. She has a really good section, which I can't remember right off, about the guy who did, you know the movie, Kevin probably knows this, the movie Stand and Deliver, about a math teacher who takes a bunch of inner city kids and manages to teach them like advanced calculus. And how does he teach them advanced calculus? I'm not sure if this comes out in the movie, though I did think I saw it. But the point is, the way he did it was he convinced them that they could do it, that their abilities were not fixed, that they could change and improve, and then they got excited about it. She tells this very touching story about a little boy in one of their sessions where they were trying to take a group of kids, and they taught them that, they did this study where they took two groups. One group, they taught them study skills. Kids who were maybe struggling in school, they taught them general study skills. The other group, they taught them general study skills, but they also specifically taught them that your brain improves and grows every time you learn something new. And every time you work at something hard, you're going to get better at it. And in one of their studies with the growth group, one boy who was especially bad in school suddenly looked up and said, you mean I don't have to be dumb? And it made a world of difference. He suddenly was the kid who never did anything. Now he's turning in all kinds of assignments, even turning in assignments early so he could get feedback on how to do it better. It's an exciting thing. And then on the other side, for the people with a fixed mindset, she mainly talks about people with a fixed mindset who think that they're really good at something, and then they have to protect that. One example, and the one she loves to mention, is John McEnroe. Because he was the top tennis champion for 4 years, but he's famous not as much for the tennis as he is for having an incredible temper. And why did he have incredible temper? Because when anything went wrong, it couldn't be his fault. Because if it was his fault, then that means he's not good enough. That means he failed the test. So he always had to blame somebody else, and through terrible fits. A counter example was Michael Jordan, who was incredible at sports, but not always. When he first started, he was passed over in draft picks. He didn't do that great. He does this, one of his favorite commercials she mentions, he does, I think it was for Nike. He lists all of the times that he missed a free throw, missed an important shot, failed to help them win a game. And that's because he always believed in the growth mindset. He was always about trying to make himself better. And it was never a test to see if he was good enough. It was always, how can I make myself better? I found this a very inspirational book, and I highly recommend it if you feel like reading it. For those of you who are teachers out there, and you know who you are, there's some very good advice in there on how to help your students to have more of a growth mindset, because you really can influence people and sort of put them in a growth or a fixed mindset. Anyhow, that's all for today. Love you guys lots, and I'll see you soon.